I want to start doing videos. Then I look like this, and I'm like, can we get some filters on here or something?
I have a
One
nice
guy.
personality too.
I have multiple of them. Like, enjoy them all.
This is Reah,
And this is Natia, and this is just the who of us.
where we discuss family, relationships, life experiences, traumas, and more.
So you had a really good topic idea for today. Do you want to dive on into that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people in this world have a lot of scars, a lot of things they've gone through, and the scars don't have to be physical scars. They can also be mental scars, scars in the heart, And I believe that, and the self-harm scars, and I believe that a lot of people put a lot of shame around that. There's a lot of stigma around scars, and I feel like there's also a lot of stigma around self-harm, and that there's a lot of stigma that says that people are doing it for attention, to get compassion. But like, I wanted to speak about how scars are a testament to what you've gone through and what you survived. No matter whether it's physical or mental, it shows you what you've survived, and they show you that you are okay now, and they're always going to be there no matter what. And they're going to fade over time, but they're still going to be there. And that's okay. It's not, you don't have to have a perfect everything. And it's okay to protect yourself because of those scars.
Yeah.
So, I think that it doesn't get talked about enough. I have scars all over my body from self-harm. Sometimes when I get out of the shower, or when I see those scars, I start to feel shame around it. I start to feel like no one's ever going to love me for who I am because of it, and I don't feel attractive. But I think that's something I'm working on. But I think that it's all about accepting them. It's about letting them tell your story. And I think it's just something that needs to be addressed in this world today. And there's some people that even sexualize self-harm scars. They are like, oh, you got scars? Well, that's sexy. And I'm just like,
really?
What the heck? Yeah, they're like, I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, this is not something to encourage. This is something to help that person stop doing that.
Right.
So, like, I just wanted to get that out there, and it was on my heart, it was on my mind, and I just wanted, you never know who's listening and or thinking about that type of stuff,
Yeah, definitely.
And I just kind of wanted to put that out there. So I don't know what your thoughts are on it, or...
Yeah, so I want to ask you one question. When you say that you don't feel attractive because of the scars, are you referring to mental or physical scars? Because I think that it's also applicable to people who don't have like physical outside scars, but who have like what I, would consider to be like mental and emotional scarring, which,
right,
you and I both have.
Right.
And so we can relate on that level. I don't have physical scars. However, myself and other people that do can also relate, because even though you can't see them, they're still there. Kind of
right.
thing. So when you say that you don't feel attractive because of the scars, is that physical or mental, and why?
I was talking more about physical scars when I was saying that, because I was like, it's like when I get out of the shower, I see myself like in the mirror, and I'm just like, what the hell did I do? I pass judgment on myself. And there's plenty of people that told me any person would be lucky enough to have me, no matter about this, love me for my scars and all that stuff. But I just felt ashamed because, like, I just felt unlovable. not no one's ever going to love me for me, and that it gets kind of rough. And then going on to the mental scars that I have, that brings me shame too, because I'm like I'm afraid that there's going to be times when a person will want sex and I feel triggered and they wouldn't know how to handle it or something like that, and I feel ashamed about that. I mean, I feel so much shame around these scars, but I'm working on myself to not feel that shame anymore, not to pass judgment on myself. And I don't think anybody else should do that too, and I'm working on that too. So I'm not trying to be hypocritical by saying, hey, don't feel ashamed. Like I feel like I feel it too, but I'm working on myself within myself to switch that narrative in my head.
Yeah, I understand that. That makes a lot of sense. So I want to share something that I found on BetterHelp. And I chose to go here because BetterHelp has become a pretty popular source for therapy. So there on this particular article, it's how to get rid of old scars, physical and emotional. And I'm not going to read through the whole thing, and I'll put the link in the info, but basically I'll just go over the bullet points. First of all, the first one is don't feel ashamed of old scars. You know, like you said, it's there and it's happened. Now, I also want to say that neither one of us are promoting or supporting or anything like that self-harm and causing scars on your body. So I just want to put that out there. But for something that's already been done, you know, you can't dwell on it, go back in the past and change it. The most you can do is heal from it and grow from it. The first one is don't feel ashamed of your scars, is like their first bulletin. Many people feel ashamed of their scars and believe others will judge or pity them for a type of trauma they've endured. If there's anything your scars tell others, it's that you went through a difficult situation or are strong enough to pull yourself through it. They give your scars as a representation of your strength. So that said, you'll still want to heal from your scars by getting rid of them. If this is your goal, here are some of the best remedies to remove old scars, both physical and emotional. So this is for physical scars first. It says some kind of remedies, treatment methods. I'm not going to promote all these, so I'll just kind of go over the ones that I think are good ideas too. Using aloe vera and other natural remedies. Now, this probably depends on how old they are. I would imagine for aloe vera and other natural things. Onion extract, lemon juice, and honey as a mixture, as well as pure aloe vera gel. Now, these are like how to, naturally get rid of things physically or lighten them kind of thing. Because if the physical reminders of these traumas are difficult for you, there are ways that you can try to, kind of lighten them. And then also seeking out cosmetic dermatology is an option. Some people can't necessarily afford that option or, don't really want to go that route. And that's perfectly fine too. Another thing that Natia did was incorporated them in her tattoo. So she got a tattoo of the area and found a way to incorporate it in that to make it into something beautiful. Not everyone in the tattoo. However, I don't think it's a bad way. I think it's a great way to incorporate it into a beautiful, not picture, but
masterpiece.
Yeah, and make it something beautiful. Which emotional and physical scars are very different. And realistically, it's probably easier to get rid of physical scars, oddly enough, even though you can see them. But it's easier to kind of cover them, treat them, than it is the scars that you can't see because they're not there physically to remind you they're there.
Right.
So some tips from BetterHelp on how to get rid of emotional scars include relaxation and self-awareness exercises, a self-care routine, which is important. And we can get more into that, kind of later, but also learn more about who you are and what you want. So healing from the past involves deep knowledge of what hurts us, how it affects us, and how it shaped us into the person we are today. And this is something that you briefly mentioned too, our past kind of helps mold who we are in the present and who we can become in the future, depending on which path we take.
Right.
So learning more about yourself, who you are and what you need is important into your emotional healing for what I would think are obvious reasons, but not everybody is aware, and just therefore it wouldn't really be fair to say for obvious reasons for someone who is kind of at the beginning of an emotional healing journey. There's still things that I have not healed from emotionally that happened a long time ago. And I am aware. I am aware of what I can do about those things, how I can help myself heal. Sometimes it's just hard. You know, I mean, sometimes it's not easy to just fix everything and just move on from it, you know.
I agree. I still have things I have not processed yet in my past. Right. And it's just like, I know I'm going to have to get to it. I'm just trying to avoid it at all possible costs.
Well, but I understand that. Even though that may not be the healthiest thing to do, I do understand that, because some things are hard. Some things are painful.
Right.
And sometimes we just don't want to feel that pain again by talking about it. You know, even though we know that it's important to do that to get through it, sometimes we're just tired of being in pain, and we don't want, you know, this other thing that's hurtful to have to dive into it. And sometimes it just takes time, and you can't overdo it with yourself, because then
you'll burn out.
Yeah, you'll burn out, and you won't, you know, get the results that you really desire. So, and then also seeking professional help is a recommendation on, I mean, BetterHelp is a website, you know, providing therapies and things like that. But I do like the fact that they don't just immediately jump into advertising therapy. And I like that, because some people, and I know people personally, who say, well, therapy's not for me. And I said that for a very long time, until I decided to get education on therapy and counseling. And I realized the more education I gained from it, like, oh, this actually is a helpful tool. And now that I understand it, I understand why it's helpful, and have experienced how it can be beneficial. So, but yeah, I liked that they didn't just immediately jump into advertising for therapy. They give you some natural and some variety of options for both physical and emotional. And there's different reasons. Sometimes people can't afford it. Sometimes people might have trauma from a therapy for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And have there been instances where having the scars on your body has stopped you from doing something you wanted to do because of someone else?
There's been times when I don't really use the community neighborhood pool very much. Well, first of all, because my parents have a pool and it's a lot cleaner, and it doesn't have a bunch of kids and other people in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it stopped me a couple of times from, you know, going there, because I have scars all over my legs too, you know, not just my arms. And I'm just afraid of what people will say. And I wear pants most of the time. And I'm just, I don't know, I guess, like, I'm just like making sure nobody like sees them and being like, hey, like, what happened? I'm like, I don't want to tell you in case you think I'm just telling you for attention. Like, I don't know. Like I don't, it's like one of those things is like, I'm not trying to quote, show them off. You know what I mean? But there's times when I want to wear shorts, like, and they're going to show, like, whether I like it or not. And sometimes I'm just like thinking, like, I don't, like, screw other people. Like, I don't care what they say. Like, there's not really much I can do about it, and there's not much they can do about it. So, like, I mean, there is one instance where I remember, this was before I got the tattoos, and I had a scar on my arm. And my grandmother, she said, she looks at my arm and she's like, what's this from? And I could see the pain in her eyes, because she knew I self-harmed. And she was like, what happened? I'm like, I don't want to tell you. And she was like, it's from this, isn't it? And I was like, yeah. And I could just see the pain in her eyes. And I was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean to do that. So There has been instances where people have seen my scars and just been like, "Hey, what happened? What's going on with this?" Like, and I'm just like, I just try to think of like sometimes I'm sarcastic with the answers. Like I was like, I got to fight with a puma. It didn't go so well.
That's funny. That's clever. What do
Right?
people say? They're like, huh?
They were just like, what the hell? Like, they're like, one time some person says, you don't have to be a smart ass about it. And I'm
Oh,
like, I'm just like, I'm sorry. You're the one who asked. You're being an asshole by asking where I got these scars. So, like, you
right.
started it. Like,
Really?
so, I mean, like, yeah, there's been times where I've gotten questions and I just like I like if I have one message for the people that are listening is don't ever self-harm. I know it's something that people probably already tell people a lot, but the scars and the reminder is not worth it. It's not worth it in the end. It's really not. And and it can become an addiction. Like most people don't think about it as an addiction, but it is. Um, and I've been addicted since I was like 12 years old. Like, I mean, like it's been an on and off thing, and it's just I just wish I never even started or done as many as I have.
So, I wanted to share this too. And this, speaking of addiction, so I don't know how many people are aware of this. I feel like it's pretty popular, so maybe people have heard of it. It's probably on YouTube. It's definitely on Facebook. It's called soft white underbelly, and it they interview different people, typically addicts, typically people who live on the street, and some of them are children, some of them are teenagers. There's a former executioner on here. So I was watching one this morning. Quentin, he didn't send me this one, but he introduced me to soft white underbelly because he was like, this just looks like something that I would be interested in. He was absolutely right. So, like I said, they interview different people. Some of them are addicts. Some of them are prostitutes. Some of them, I feel like they all live on the street. Yeah. So I was watching one earlier. Oh no, not all of them live on the street because this guy is like he's a male stripper in Vegas. But anyway, most of them live on the streets and or on drugs. I was watching one this morning, and it was a young girl. She's 27, and she is a female pimp. Has also done various drugs, and so her mom had her when she was 13 years old, and had the child, which I don't know why that's like such a huge shocker to me because I was only a year older when I had my first child. And so her mom was 13 and when she had her, and at 2, like I think like at 2 she went to live with her grandparents kind of thing. All throughout her life she was back and forth on the streets with her mom and living with her grandparents. At one point, about 12 or so, I think, which is about the same age her mom was, the girl's grandparents then kicked the mom out, kept the granddaughter. And then when she was 2, the mom came and got her, had her living on the streets with her for a while, for a few years. She went back to the grandparents a couple of years, was back on the streets with her mom at age 7 or 8, and then saw her mom get killed, and then went back with her grandparents. She ran away a couple of times between 8 and 12, ended up like living on the streets when she was 12. So, repeated the same kind of pattern when her grandparents kicked her mom out. that's when she started prostituting and stuff like that at 12. I can't even wrap my mind around my 13-year-old daughter being kicked out and living on the street. That is just my 15-year-old daughter, my 19, my 22-year-old son. Like, there's no way. I can't even imagine.
Right.
Get out of my house, you 13-year-old, since you want to. The fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I think she probably needs you even more. Like,
Right.
and maybe that's because my mom didn't kick me out. You know, she was like, oh, you need my help more now. So, like,
Mhm.
that's insane to me. However, it's not something that never happened. And so anyway, she proceeds to go, you know, she's living on the streets about 12 now, 12, 13. And she does different drugs and things like that. I don't think that she has self-harm scars. I don't think, like, if she does, they're not visible. But I would imagine some people on here do. And I'll put that link down there too, because it's a really, really interesting little page.
Mhm.
It's crazy. Like I said, not everybody's homeless, not everybody's on drugs, but for the most part, they either or. Yeah, it's so crazy. It's so crazy to see the type. And there's like a 12-year-old on. There's a girl on here. She lives on the streets with her mom, and she is 11. And she's been living on the street on Skid Row with her mom since she was like 10. But anyway, I bring all that up. I wanted to let people know about that page.
Mhm.
I would imagine they're on YouTube too, but it ties into the emotional scarring side of humanity. You know, like, hurt and pain and scarring isn't always physical. And we want to kind of address a way to appreciate, or at least, I can't think of the word I'm trying to think. Your physical and emotional scars. Find a way to, for one, acknowledge them, two, realize and understand that they have like, they tell a story in a way without promoting it. You know what I mean? I don't
Right.
know exactly what I'm trying to say, but, like, just give people some kind of sense of you're seen and you're valid, and your trauma and your pain
Right.
is validated, and it's
Mhm.
important, and it's important for you to acknowledge it and understand it, and figure it out in a way that you can heal from it and not just constantly be hurt by it, if that makes sense.
Right. I agree.
Find a way to acknowledge and heal, rather than be ashamed or continue to,
The cycle.
yes, continue that cycle.
Mhm.
I talk about in my book too, about, like, generational curses, generational blips, because we grow up in certain situations. We grow up seeing certain influences, and we carry on those same habits when we get older because it's what we're used to.
Right.
However, it's not a requirement that we have to be like the people that hurt us.
Right.
I also understand that not everyone has someone in their life to teach them different. Not everybody has someone in their life to teach them about mental health, to teach them about taking care of their body, to teach them to like themselves.
Right.
It's one thing that I have always tried to make sure I do with my kids, because my mother did it with me, to always make sure I teach my kids to like themselves and to love themselves.
Right.
Because we are human and we're going to make mistakes. And even, you know, if I get frustrated with one of my kids for making some kind of mistake that seems silly enough to me that they shouldn't have made it, I always try to go back later and make sure, like, hey, you made a mistake. I got upset. Just don't keep repeating that same mistake. However,
Right.
I still love you. You're still freaking amazing. I actually kind of fired my kids from my business this weekend. There are some things that have happened. People just aren't putting in the effort they need to be putting in, and this is my business. So if you can't perform how I need you to perform, can't have you there. However, I gave them, this is what, if you want to come back, this is what I need you to do. And we're going to do this, and this way. But I am going to give you the opportunity to learn and grow from your mistakes.
Right.
Now, I did say, well, for one thing, is that if you are my kid and you haven't worked for someone else other than me before, once you have experience working for someone else, then you can come work for me. Because I need you to see what it's like working for someone who's not your mom. And then you're going to come back and work for your mom and be like, oh, okay, mom, I'm going to do what you need me to do because you're not like, you know what I mean? You're a little bit more lenient than someone I don't know.
Right.
However, like I said, we had a conversation after to make sure that we're on the same page. I'm not recanting what I said, but I need to know that you understand where I'm coming from. And I also need you to know that you're still freaking amazing. Just because I don't like that, you know, what you did, or I feel like you're not doing this or whatever, I still like you. I still love you. And you should still like and love yourself, even if you make a mistake, as long as you are working to correct your mistake and not keep making it. Now, and I'm not saying like, okay, if you keep making the mistake, you shouldn't like yourself. However, I'm saying if you keep making the same mistake, then you need to evaluate what you're doing wrong and why you are refusing to change.
Right.
Sometimes you need a little bit of assistance. Sometimes we keep doing the same thing and we're not changing because we don't necessarily know how to change, what to do better. You know, the people around us haven't shown us. There's also this debate that's like, okay, well, because some people feel like, well, once you become an adult, 18, 21, whatever that number might be to you, then it's on you to get your shit together and learn what people never taught you. And then there's other people who think, okay, well, some people might need a little bit longer because they weren't taught these things. And maybe they haven't had someone in their life yet to be like, hey, this is an issue. This is not healthy, or whatever the case may be. Maybe you should think about bettering yourself. Not everybody has someone to come and say that to them. Not everybody has someone to show them how to do that.
Right.
You could have very easily stayed in the orphanage you were in and never been taken in by your parents and never been shown anything better and ended up on the street doing all these things, you know?
Right.
If no one had been putting your path to show you better. And so I'm not one of those people who feel like, well, you turn 18, you should have your shit together. Now, if you have someone in your life who is telling you and showing you how to better yourself, and you turn 18, 21, and you still aren't trying to hear it, then that's on you.
Right.
But if you don't have someone in your life to teach you and show you better, it's kind of hard for you to just magically know that, you know? I feel like there's typically a time when somebody gets their first job or, you know, whatever, you meet a friend who has a stable family or something like that. And people come into your life who show you how to do better. And at that point, it does start to become your responsibility to learn and grow. But when you're raised on the street by an addict or by the street because your parents are dead or junkies or whatever the case may be, and they aren't there to raise you, it happens. And a lot of people don't understand that. That's one reason I like watching these videos. It kind of humbles me. I didn't have to go through all that because I had people who gave a crap about me.
Right.
However, not everybody has that luxury of having people who give a crap about them. It's like telling someone in another country who has never been here before, well, you should be fluent in English because you should just know that, like, we speak English here, so you should know English your first day here.
Right.
It's another thing that's stupid to me because how are people supposed to know things that they aren't taught? Like,
right.
I don't know if there's a lot of people still like this. I imagine probably so, but I've heard somebody say, if you're an American, you should speak English. And it perturbs me. Now, if you move to an English-speaking country, you should probably learn English. However,
I wonder what that's like.
Right. However, I don't expect you to be fluent in English your first day here. You're in your 30s, 40s, like whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's a dumb expectation of me.
Yeah, I mean, when I first came to the U.S., I didn't know English, so
right,
and exactly.
So it's the same way with emotional, physical scars and trauma and things like that. People go through things. You have to give people time to adjust. People have to have the opportunity to learn and to grow and to do better. It becomes our responsibility to do that once we know it's an option, for one. Some people go through a large portion of life not even realizing that recovering from something, growing from it is even an option. How am I supposed to grow from sexual trauma? How am I supposed to grow from that? How am I supposed to, at 2 years old, process that? How am I supposed to, at 17 years old, go from the process that?
Right.
It takes time. And I'm not saying that just like give everybody a free pass to do whatever because they've been through things, but people can't grow and heal if they don't know how or haven't been introduced to coping mechanisms, therapy, different things to grow and heal from. It's not just a magic thing that happens. It's one reason that I'm glad that we talk about the things we talk about, because I know there's a lot of people who will listen to this and learn that I can grow and heal and I don't always have to feel like this for the rest of my life. And that's because they haven't been taught that before. I know, there's commercials, whatever. Things are advertised on TV, on, the radio, whatnot. But most of us don't pay attention to commercials anymore because they just take up time from what we're trying to watch. So we just want to get through the commercial or skip it or whatever. So just because things are out there doesn't mean that people are aware of them. So, and especially for you too, like when you have topics like this that you bring up and you're like, I really want to talk about this. I think it's absolutely wonderful because you go through things that I don't. Just like there's listeners who have gone through things I haven't that you have and you can speak on. And there's things that you've also learned about and grown from that you can speak on that too. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point, having two different people talking, because we're both at different stages in our lives. Like you have kids, I don't, and I hope I never do, but there's just different things that we can both learn from each other. So yeah. I was also looking up information on physical and mental scars, and I came across this article, and I'm not going to post this article because I'm not going to like dive into it. I just want to mention it because I think it's kind of a question that people ask, but I personally, from my education experience, don't think it's a fair question to ask. What's worse, physical scars or mental scars? Damn.
Yeah. And it kind of breaks down both sides a little bit. It gives you kind of the signs and indicators of both, some misconceptions and some damaging aspects. That's all I'm going to say. So it does go over those kind of things. However, I don't think that's a fair question.
I agree.
Yeah. And I say that because it's like saying, okay, what's worse, rape or being punched in the face by your partner? Yeah. It's like,
see, there's this thing I like to say is that pain is pain. Whether it's whatever it is, pain is experienced the same. No matter what it is, it doesn't have to be physical and it doesn't have to be mental. Like pain is pain. If you're suffering, you're suffering. It's like you'll still drown in 2 inches of water. And same as if you drown in a 6 foot deep end, like you 100%. Are still going to drown. Like 100%. It's the same thing. Do not ever diminish somebody's pain, depends which way it goes, just because it may be different from yours. Like that's one thing that always pissed me off was when people would be like, oh, you've gone through way worse stuff than I have. I'm like, don't ever compare yourself to another person.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I feel like a lot of parents are struggle with, because I know my parents have been like, well, don't forget about Gandhi, who went this far without food. I'm like, don't compare me to Gandhi. Don't try to bring someone else's story to try to make my story feel better, because I'm still experiencing pain. Wow. And I feel like a lot of parents kind of like try to say, well, it could be worse. I'm like, well, it feels worse to me. So sorry, that stuff just like gets to me.
No, I get it. Yeah, I don't think that comparisons are fair between people within the same person. Reading this article a little bit deeper, they do kind of say at the end, one isn't really less damaging than the other. I just brought that up because it was something that I was searching around for some information, and it's something that came up. And I also want to point that out too, that you can't just read everything. And, right. I'm not saying that like everybody should read everything like they're writing a college essay, but you really do have to be careful with what you put into your mind
Right.
And you can't just, there's no fair comparison, not from one person to the other, not from one trauma to the other, not from one type of scar to the other. There's no fair comparison because everybody processes things in their own way. Everybody is experienced certain. No two people have 100% identical experiences.
Right.
You just don't. And even if you have been put in the same situation as someone else, that doesn't mean your situations are identical because they have had other life experiences tied in with that experience, whereas you have had different life. While it's helpful to be able to talk to people who have been in similar situations, it's never fair to yourself to diminish your experience because someone else also had an experience.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I hope that how to deal with your scars is helpful. And you guys can always email or write in and whatnot. Like if there's something that we talked about that you want to hear more about, or you have an opinion from experience, you want to come on and share it, or you just want to email, post on the Facebook page, we absolutely welcome it.
100%.
But I think that I really like where it talks about learn more about who you are and what you want. I think that's really good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we go through things and we don't really understand them. We don't understand who we are because we don't understand what we've experienced.
Right.
And we don't understand how to heal and grow because we don't understand enough about ourselves, kind of thing. So I think that's a really, really good advice. We've been talking a lot, even at home, about like the internet, and like internet use and stuff like that, and mood and everything. And I found myself this past few days kind of looking at my kids. I'm like, damn, they're on the phone again. Like they still got the phone again, like this. It's like everything they do. And I'm like constantly having conversations with them, so I know the kind of stuff they do on their phone. Tay is mostly editing. She makes all kind of edits for wrestling and stuff. And Carmen is typically in a video chat with a friend, one of her many friends. Deanna is not on his phone as much. If he is, he's playing some kind of game. And that's really it. I found myself not that I don't pay attention, because like I said, I do. Ever since they've gotten phones, I just want to know what they're doing. Want to make sure that they're making healthy choices. And I feel like sometimes, specifically with my younger kids, because my older kids, they were around before phones were a thing that we always had. Like they were around before texting was free. Like they were around before you had the internet on your phone to have everything right there.
Yeah.
So specifically with my youngest kid doesn't have a phone, and we are trying to wait as long in life as we can to get that kid a phone because he already is distracted, but he's 7, he's like always with one of us, so he didn't really need one. But I found myself paying a little bit more attention, or maybe I just found myself noticing a little bit more because I haven't been picking mine up every 5 seconds, opening some kind of social media app.
Yeah.
I'm looking like, hey, y'all always have your phones in your face. Always. But I know what they're doing. They're not just like mindlessly zombie scrolling.
Right.
But it is crazy how much it consumes us, and how much, yet again, if you don't have someone teaching you healthy habits, how much it can really negatively impact you.
Right.
I think I might go take a nap.
Honestly, I feel the same. All right. Enjoy your nap.
All right. Talk at you later.
If anyone wants to chime in, or if anybody has questions they want us to answer or topics to discuss, you can leave that on the Facebook page. Visit www.philolity.net. That's FALOLITY, where you can purchase your own copy of Surviving Mom Brain and Dad Brain workbooks, as well as my autobiography.
Adios, mi amigo.